when, you know, you're moving from that place of childhood into adulthood, you have to go through this process. It's part of the maturation process. Anyone know the recipe for adolescent salad?
No.
Lettuce alone. Right? You gotta go through that. Think of the story of the prodigal son in the New Testament. I've told you this story before. It's about the son who wants his inheritance now so that he can go and live his life. And we know how the story goes, right? He goes out there and he gets into a heck of trouble, makes a lot of mistakes. And then eventually he comes to realize the truth. He returns home to his father, and his father metaphysically represents what? God. He comes home to his self, his higher self, his divine self. Gandhi spoke these words: freedom is not worth having if it does not connote freedom to err. You know, human experience, living the human life, has to involve making mistakes. This is part of our growing up process. We got, you know, if you're parents, you know there's a time when you have to let the kids fall on the face, right? For them to grow up. And that's fine, but the point is we have to learn, right, from those mistakes. Correct, at some point, our course direction, and rise up higher. Rise up higher. You know, many times a person sees freedom as their opportunity to spread their wings and fly, and to express their own individual personal self, irrespective of where it takes them, and no matter what it might mean in the larger scheme of things. All been there, done that. You know, a person paroled from prison might say that he or she is free now, and they certainly are, right? They can roam the land, the nation, do the things that they want to do that they couldn't do while in prison. Adolescents, same thing, leaving home for the first time. Surely can say they are free. They're no longer under the rules of the tyranny of their parents in their childhood home, right? They're free. Free. These are our time. There are times in our lives, especially in our early years, when we want to do our own thing. And we think that own thing is pretty cool. It's the way to go. So we say, I want freedom. I want to get out of this house. I want to get out of this prison. I want to do my own thing, and I want to make my own mistakes. It's very similar to the story in the Old Testament of the Israelites finally breaking free of bondage in Egypt. Surely they must have felt free for the very first time. But I want to give you this morning a new definition of freedom. Freedom is what you do with your newfound liberty. Whether it's getting out of prison or getting out of your parents' house or even leaving your childhood church for a more open and free way of thinking, like you find in Unity. True freedom is a state of being that is the result of regulating your life, oh God, breathe, according to divine principle. Ooh, the ego doesn't like that. True freedom is a state of being that regulates its way of life according to divine principle. Spiritual freedom, soul freedom is not something that anyone can be given. It's something one has to grow into. It's called spiritual maturity, folks. Growing up. It's okay if you're still an adolescent. You know, maybe this whole lifetime you need to do that. For whatever reason. But when you talk about soul freedom, spiritual freedom, we're talking about a growth experience, a maturity experience. It might help here to give you a definition of bondage. Bondage is the undue attachment to thoughts, feelings, words, and actions in lower personal consciousness. Did you get that? So it's when we're tied to this. The outer, the physical manifestation. And a lot of us are here because we want to play. We want to be in this earth. We want to have this physical experience. It's part of, the whole spiritual journey. So if that is your primary focus, then that's bondage. Uh-oh. Remember, you can agree to disagree. Right? In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 19, it's written, "Whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven," heaven's consciousness, "and whatsoever shall be loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven." So by now you might be asking, why can't I have it both ways? Why can't I enjoy life and do all the things I want to do without growing? Why can't I? Why can't I just read a spiritual book and say, all right, I've read the book. Now I am God's truth in action, see? Why do I have to grow? Why do I have to change? Oh, yeah. Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? Anybody feeling like that? Unity's no fun anymore. That's bondage, folks. Bondage is when I always act in a certain way and I want to continue to act in that way. I am limited, and I have become accustomed to being limited. Yeah. It's like being in a prison cell and not knowing that I'm in a cell and not knowing that the door to the cell is open. I stay there, exist there, function there, not even knowing that there's an opportunity waiting right there for me to grow and to change. That's what the spiritual journey is all about, folks. That's why I say unity is a hard path to walk. It's easier to go to your traditional church and be just told what to believe and what to do and not have any choice about it. This is all about choice, but it's a constant looking within, discerning, choosing, evolving, growing, developing. It's not about being comfortable. My ego loves to be comfortable. I'm not very comfortable right now. I'm dying up here so high. I think what my ego was telling me earlier, I would have just said, forget it. I'm not talking today. It's true. So thankfully, we all have this innate desire in each one of us to be spiritually free, to be liberated from this bondage. It's like God is knocking at our door saying, listen, my child, I am here. I'm right here with you. You think you have it made now, but if you just put your hand in my hand, I'll show you things you haven't even dreamed of. Prove me now. I will open up the windows of heaven and pour out an abundance of blessings for you. Trust me. That is what freedom is all about. It's about spiritual growth. Life is like a big university. And I get to choose if I want to go into the supportive, loving classroom, if I just want to keep attending the school of hard knocks. Because they're going to knock. Life is going to knock. We talk about the 2x4, the cosmic 2x4. Something's going to wake you up. Something will. Might be the ambulance ride that I had to take. Or how about, just for the sake of my controversial talk a couple weeks ago, how about a cattle prod? A little red hot poker that's going to push me, oftentimes quite painfully, the way I need to go. Because folks, freedom is not being free to do the things I should not do. We don't like that word should in unity, do we? But guess what? The good news is you get to decide what you should not do. Freedom is always about doing the things that are in the best interest of me and the best interest of others. I'm free to live and move and have my being as an expression of God.